And we are live, but as per tradition, we're going to let it breathe. We're going to make sure that everyone who needs to be in this room, and some people need this podcast in their lives, all right, just like we do, can get in, and we are good. So welcome in, everybody. It is the Huddle Up Podcast, presented as always by Mile High Huddle, powered by Blue Wire Podcast, and I'm your host, Chad Jensen. With me, my fellow football priest, you know him, you love him, Zack Kelberman. Zack, the joy I experienced today upon seeing the Cincinnati Bengals storm back from an 18-point deficit? Was it 21? 21. Either way. Yes. All right. 18-point deficit and defeat the Kansas City Chiefs at home. My son, unfortunately, Zack, he's not quite as passionate about football as I am, or the Denver Broncos. He comes up right as the kicker's about to nail it in overtime, right? And I go, dude, this is football history. Watch this. You ready? Watch. And when the kick went through, I glanced up at my son, and I could see on his face a genuine surprise at how much how much joy I was taking in seeing the Kansas City Chiefs get handed that L and stopped from going to the Super Bowl. What was your gut reaction?
Well, Mahomes is mortal. You know, he's beatable. He gave that game away, and he's the reason the Chiefs lost. He's the reason the Chiefs choked away an 18-point lead. And credit to the Bengals, though. Joe Burrow is the real deal. I was a doubter of his coming out of. I didn't think he would be a slam dunk franchise quarterback. He's blown my expectations quite away. And also, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, Lou Anamaru, the defensive coordinator from the Cincinnati Bengals. What a job he's done this year, holding Kansas City to 3 points in the second half. That defense constantly plays disciplined, sound. They don't miss tackles. He deserves a ton of credit. So I love the underdog story. I love a well-coached team, obviously. Zach Taylor, he gets a little conservative at times, but he managed and willed that team back from an 18-point deficit. It helped that Andy Reid's clock management issues came back. It helped that Mahomes. I don't know what he was doing. He looked like Drew Lock back there, taking sacks and throwing picks, but that'll happen when you punch him in the mouth. And I'm happy for Cincinnati, the first time since '89 during the Super Bowl. And I guess it's going to be maybe the Niners and not the Rams facing them, but I'm happy for Cincinnati.
Season, the '89 Super Bowl. That's one thing I just don't – I've always wondered about the NFL is you're so on the fringe of keeping the season all in one calendar year. Why not just schedule things so that you start, the third week of August, the regular season, and you still get all of the fall weather for football, and then you can play the Super Bowl at a reasonable time. Anyway, Smith Corona jumps in early, Zack, with a very, very generous super chat. And Smith Corona is a longtime super chat superstar, near and dear to our hearts. Thank you, my friend. Seriously, appreciate that. His message, who day we all honorary Bengal fans today. The Chiefs losing has brought balance to the force. Yes, it has. And that's one of the reasons I was so elated. My son's like, dude, why do you hate Patrick Mahomes so bad? I'm like, I don't hate Patrick Mahomes, but I hate Patrick Mahomes, okay? I hate / respect. It's like that scene from Get Him to the Greek in the airplane. The content of what you said has made me hate you, but the courage with which you said it, I respect you. So it's a hateful respect. That's how I feel about Pat Mahomes.
Is that when he smuggled the drugs in his undercarriage, Jackson? That's such a good movie. Yeah, I'm happy for them, and it's a good day to be a Broncos fan because two teams in the West got worse. Kansas City was eliminated, and the Vegas Raiders hired Josh McDaniels as their next head coach. I cannot wait, Chad, for Nathaniel Hackett to outcoach him twice a year, and that first matchup in Denver against McDaniels, I hope it's prime time. That's going to be lit.
I was begging and I was praying that Mark Davis would hire Josh McDaniels, and it happened. It happened today. There's multiple reasons to rejoice. Cloud 9, good to see you. It's been a minute. Where you been? Big dog? Thank you for the super chat. He says today was a good day. I think still king of the mountain, 3-time world champs. Bye Chiefs. Hit the gritty. That's true. But technically, the Raiders have 3 world championships. Broncos tied with the Raiders for the most in the division. Based Gase, what's good, big dog? Thank you. He says, looks like our new potential OCs/DCs are Justin Outen, and Ejiro Evero. Zach.
Yeah, that's the Packers. We talked about Evero before. I think he's the Rams secondary coach, and he goes back with Hackett. Oten, Wooten, however you pronounce his last name, Outen. He is the Packers tight ends coach right now. So obviously that's the Nathaniel Hackett connection. We'll have an article about that on the website, but with Stenavich being promoted, Adam Stenavich in Green Bay to OC, and then let Luke Getsy go to Chicago as their OC. Hackett's going to have to go to another direction. We did have the article, though, that they requested to interview Kevin Koger, who is the Chargers tight ends coach. So it seems like Hackett wants a tight ends coach to be OC. I thought that's interesting, but it's all nominal anyway. It's like Ed Donatel under Vic Fangio. It's title only because Hackett said himself, yes, I'm calling the plays.
Yep. Yes, indeed. We haven't had a chance really yet, Zach, to reflect on Nathaniel Hackett's Hello Presser. We'll get into that more and more tonight as we dive into the chat. But let's grab Angelo Perez jumping in with an early super as well. Thank you, my friend. Thoughts on trading for any Saints players, Ramczyk, Lattimore, Jordan, if we were to land Rodgers and Adams and lose Judy? Any chance we would trade Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton?
Zach, your thoughts here. Yeah, a lot to unpack here. I don't know if you're saying in conjunction with trading for Rodgers and Adams, because you're not going to have the capital to trade for with Ramczyk, Lattimore, Jordan, etc. So it's kind of one or the other. I don't know that I am going to hold my breath on Devontae and Aaron coming to Denver. Getting Aaron alone would be improbable and a huge feat itself. He also wants Marquez Valdez-Scantling to come along with him and Adams wherever he goes. So it's becoming quite the complex proposition. We talked about the Saints having a potential fire sale under their next head coach. I would take Ramczyk for sure, but if you trade for Rodgers, you're not going to have that first-round pick. You probably won't have the second-round pick, and I don't think the Saints would trade Ramczyk for a third-round pick. In terms of the Rodgers trade itself, you're probably going to give up one of the receivers, but I would tend to think they signed Patrick and Sutton to extensions midseason for a reason, lucrative ones at that. I think Judy would be the one to go to Green Bay in a deal, because as I've said before, he's like Devontae Adams light. Really light, super light, but you can make some do there if you're Green Bay.
Did Cooper Kupp, by the way, I know this is all of a sudden off the beaten path, but watching the game is so underrated, dude. Like maybe he's starting to get his, his just rewards. But I'm looking at the fact that he was only 53 yards away, Zach, from a 2,000-yard receiving season. Let me ask you something real quick. What's the more impressive day at the office? All right. Calvin Johnson, Megatron, in 2012, 122 catches, 1,964 receiving yards, which is the all-time single-season receiving record, and 5 tutties, or 145 receptions, 1,947 receiving yards, and 16 tutties.
How many playoff wins does Calvin Johnson have? That's what it boils down to for me. You can put up the stats, and he was the only one making plays in Detroit. I mean, he was getting the ball thrown at him 20 times a game, triple coverage situation. So I love Megatron, great player and all, but what Cooper Kupp is doing, especially when he's playing opposite Odell Beckham Jr., they lost Robert Woods. Matt Stafford's kind of unreliable, just like he was with Calvin Johnson in Detroit. So Cooper Kupp is fantastic. And I think he set the all-time record for postseason and regular season receiving yards for 1 year. I mean, tremendous season.
The one thing, though, I'll say about Stafford is, guess who threw the ball to the two guys with the most prolific receiving seasons of all time? Matt Stafford in both cases. Kind of ironic. And he had himself a season. It was the second best season of his career in 2021 under Sean McVay.
Exactly.
But, Zach, how encouraging was it to see a first-time head coach in Zach Taylor go in his third year, lead a team that, as the broadcast did a good job of illustrating when the game was on, won 4 games or 2 games, whatever it was, to go from earning the number 1 overall pick to now advancing to the Super Bowl with a tough, hard-fought road win at Arrowhead. What, if any, implications can you take from that relative to Nathaniel Hackett now coming into Denver as a first-time offensive-minded, I'm going to call the plays head coach?
Helps having a franchise quarterback. That's first and foremost. I can't dispute that. Joe Burrow is head and shoulders anything the Broncos have had since Peyton Manning, far and away. But you're seeing what a young, progressive, forward-thinking coaching staff can do, and just a sound, disciplined, well-coached team. I think the Bengals were the least penalized team in the NFL this past season. And for a young coach who it was how many games did they win last year? 4 or 5?
I mean, 4 after Burrow got hurt.
To go from that to the Super Bowl, and you have that defense again under Lou, who's is coaching just a sound, disciplined, well-schemed unit. I saw on Twitter the special teams coaches and the players were doing shots in the locker room. They just have a bond unlike anything the Broncos did under VJ or Vic Fangio for that matter. And we hope that Nathaniel Hackett, being the young former hip-hop instructor, break dancer, Chad. I mean, he's had some resume. The way he connected with the press right away in his press conference a couple days ago, I think he can bring that energy to the building, but it's a results-based business. You have to put it on the table, and you have to make the most out of the players that you have. Obviously, having a better quarterback would help, but that's why they hired Hackett, because look what Callahan and Zach Taylor did for Joe Burrow in year 2. Coming off a major knee injury, by the way. No one seemed to talk about that, but that's not easy to come back from, rehabbing physically, psychologically, and going to the Super Bowl on top of that.
Yeah, for the Pro Football Writers of America, I voted, Zach, for Joe Burrow as comeback player of the year. I think he should be comeback player
Absolutely.
of the year. A couple things really quick here. Shrine Bowl, all right. Our Luke Patterson, co-host of the Mile High Insiders podcast, went down to Vegas where the Shrine Game's being held this year for the practices. And just like the Senior Bowl, one of the great things about the Shrine Bowl, it's technically, I guess you could call it the second stop on the pre-draft trail. Then you get the Senior Bowl. But one of the great things about it is, of course, you've got NFL front office, NFL scout personnel, coaches, and media and agents as well from all around the NFL descend on one city. And all of a sudden, Zach, the rumors start bubbling, right? Word starts getting passed around. And it's one of the more fun and interesting and alluring, to be frank, reasons to even go to the Shrine Bowl as media or the Senior Bowl, etc. And so Luke Patterson, dutifully down there getting work done, had an article yesterday, Zach, after the first day of Shrine Bowl practice. Here is what he said, quote, "Since I've been in Vegas, multiple sources that are well respected around the league for their exemplary reputations have hinted that Aaron Rodgers getting traded to Denver is not a stretch and could be extremely likely. Not only that, but Rodgers' good buddy and arguably the best wideout in the NFL, Davante Adams, could join him with the Denver Broncos." Now, to kind of piggyback onto that, Zach, real quick, is something that Keith Cummings, Mile High Huddle's Keith Cummings, did a great job of kind of dredging up. And that's something that Aaron Rodgers said back in November when he talked about how much, Zach, he loves Nathaniel Hackett, hopes that he doesn't leave Green Bay. But if he does, then, unless I hope he stays here forever, something, or I go with him or something like that, right? So the thought has long been marinating, obviously, Zach, in Aaron Rodgers' head. But your reaction to these rumors that are bubbling in the Shrine Bowl?
I don't think it's anything we didn't already know. Obviously, if he's either going to stay in Green Bay, retire, or come to Denver. I think those are Aaron's 3 options. And obviously, if he comes to Denver, he wants to bring Davante Adams along, who's an impending free agent, and maybe tag and trade candidate. Wow, I can't talk tonight. I also read a report from Ian Rappaport who said they've had positive conversations, the Packers and Rodgers, in the days after the playoff loss, and there's optimism he might stay in Green Bay. So right now, January 30th, nobody knows anything. It's all educated guesses. Obviously, the Broncos, right after hiring Hackett, are going to get connected to Aaron, but we'll see how it plays out. Fortunately, we'll have a decision fairly soon because he said before free agency out of respect to Rodgers, I expect to the Packers and Adams. So we'll know soon.
There's a nice 2-minute clip I could show you guys on the website of Aaron Rodgers saying what he did. But his smirk at the end of this comment, in which he says, "Hack has been a really important part of our culture change and part of our success on offense. I love him. I hope he doesn't go anywhere unless I do." And then he closes that with a very knowing smirk. John Clay Eventing, thank you, buddy. Gents, Kitty Cat goes roar. Joe Burrow is Iceman of Top Gun lore. The most important thing, KC stays home. Yeah, you got Joe Burrow as the Iceman, Top Gun Iceman, Zach, of the NFL. But who is the Han Solo of the NFL coaching world? Nathaniel Hackett.
Yes, sir. And Joe Burrow is so freaking cool. I don't know if you happen to notice his pendant, Chad. It was completely iced out, full of diamonds. He was asked in his post-game presser, "Are those diamonds real?" He goes, "Yeah, they're real. I make too much money for them not to be." I mean, I love that type of personality because he backs it up on the field. Cool customer, tough as nails. I'm a big Burrow fan now. I wasn't when he first came out, but he proved me the hell wrong.
Well, you know what, dude? Here's the thing. Both of us were kind of Burrow skeptics when he was coming into the league. In our defense, look, we've always been wary of one-year wonder quarterbacks. His first year at LSU was solid, but completely unspectacular. If he declares for the draft, following what was it? Was it his junior year? Or either way, after that first LSU season, he's probably a late day 2, early day 3 pick. Joe Burrow, right? He's a Tom Brady circa 2000. Circa 2000. But then he comes back and has the best quarterback season in SEC history, wins the Heisman, wins the national title, and of course becomes the number 1 overall pick. So I was wary, Zach. I was wary of what he might, so many NFL bust. If you look at it as like skins on the wall, the number of skins hanging on the wall of former big-time first-round picks in the NFL, quarterbacks that went bust, are guys that were one-year wonders in college and, maximize that momentum to get drafted high. And then everyone realizes, oh, this guy isn't who we thought. Andrew Lampy, good to see you, buddy. He says, hey, all good to be back. Hope all is well with everyone. You bet your butt it is, big dog.
What I was going to say about Burrow is it's nice to have Jamar Chase. It's nice to have Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, CJ Uzama, Joe Mixon. His offensive line is crap, and they're doing a disservice by letting him get hit and hit and hit constantly, but he also has elite coaching in Brian Callahan and Zach Taylor. So it's amazing, Chad, once more, when you surround a young quarterback with talent and you mold the system to him and you support him, what he can do. That's all I'm saying.
Well said, guys. As we get ready to see what's on Travis's mind, we want to tip our caps to the MHH community on Facebook, because we reached our goal in the month of January of 250,000 stars. And so, yes, we shall be raffling off a Broncos jersey of the winner's choosing. The only people in the running for that raffle are those who, of course, contributed to the goal. And just so everyone has a nice, fresh update of where that stands, we got one more day left tonight and then tomorrow, but here's how it stands. The most tickets in the hat for that raffle, Michael Ronquillo, who, if I'm not mistaken, Zach, has won before, at number 1, Jacob Foster 2, Rodney Garcia 3, Miguel Santisteban, Andrew Baker, Doug Raquel, Travis Weber, hello, Shane the Aviator Daniels, Pete Middleton, Mark Schrader still in the top 10 with some studs like Phil McLaughlin, Kevin Smith, Jermaine, Joshua, Tarbox, Tabitha, and Lawrence Rivera, all of whom are going to have plenty of tickets in the hat. Your odds are still good. Travis, he says, good evening, priests and Broncos country. I despise the Chiefs the most out of the AFC West. I'm taking odds on Josh McDaniels tucking tail and running back to daddy. Let's get next season here, and whoever is the quarterback, go Broncos. Yeah, that's the next thought when Josh McDaniels is announced as this team is hiring this guy is, okay, we'll believe it when we see him stand up in front of that team's local media and, accept the job, as it were.
After what he did to Indianapolis in 2018, I think it was 2019, where he just left him at the altar completely. The messed up thing is, like, people are overlooking the Raiders have a solid foundation. I think they have a franchise quarterback in Derek Carr, great running back in Josh Jacobs, good receiver in Hunter Renfrow, good tight end in Darren Waller, great pass rush with Max Crosby and Yannick Ngakoue. They can get that secondary fixed and the front seven with the linebackers. They have something there. But the problem is coaching, and who's going to be the coach is Josh McDaniels. I don't think it's going to work out too well. Again, I can't wait for Hackett to outcoach him twice a year. I think the Broncos made the best head coaching hire in this year's cycle.
What I don't get here, Zach, why the Raiders if you're Josh McDaniels, and why now, right? Like, I would argue his opportunity in Indy was better maybe the deal wasn't quite as financially lucrative, but if I'm not mistaken, that predated Andrew Luck's sudden retirement, because didn't Luck get 1 year with Frank Reich, if I'm not mistaken, I think? Scott, you tell me, dude. But either way, even if Luck wasn't part of that equation, Zach, the Raiders just have not had a lot of success since 2003, right? Their last trip to the Super Bowl. So it makes me think that Mark Davis, man, and plus we know that the Patriots have incentivized him not to leave. I wonder what the terms of that deal look like. I guess is my point here, because Mark Davis has proven if it's for the coach he wants, man, he'll roll out the Brinks truck.
I was going to say, yeah, this is the same guy that gave Gruden a $100 million contract over 10 years, so I'm sure the money was nice, but maybe McDaniels knows something we don't. Maybe the empire is crumbling in New England, and he doesn't want any part of the Mac Jones experience in here, too.
Very bizarre. Miguel, what's up, buddy? Thank you. He says, I hope McDaniels tanks the Raiders. I'm praying for it. I'm so glad the Chiefs went down. All in all, a good day in Broncos country. You know, how you feel about your division rivals, I think, is largely dependent on just what era you're in, or in some cases, Zach, what era you kind of came of age as a fan, because I grew up with a deep and abiding hatred of the Raiders, because that was always the biggest threat to the Broncos when I was a young buck in the 80s and early 90s. And then after the Elway era, you had that run of the Trent Green and Priest Holmes Chiefs, where they were formidable, but they weren't really a threat, or I guess at times they were a juggernaut, but there was something different. When Cutler came around and Plummer then Cutler, it was the Chargers who I hated the most, because they were the best team in the division that would always, hand the Broncos their stripes or whatever. And then, of course, now it's the Chiefs. So I think that's a big part of it. Here's Friendly Giant. Hackett is such a refreshing change from the lethargic Fangio. What's the story on Luke Getsy taking the OC job in Chicago over Denver? A chance to call plays? Don't know, Zach. Don't know. Yeah. But you got to think that must have something to do with it. Or either that, or maybe Hackett wasn't as keen on the idea of bringing him in as his OC as we might have assumed.
I really like what Chicago's doing under Ryan Poles, who came from Kansas City, their new GM. They hire Matt Eberflus, the former Colts defensive coordinator. They got Luke Getsy to be OC. So you're pairing a defensive mind with the young up-and-coming offensive coordinator. This is what we wanted the Broncos to do if they would have hired Dan Quinn. But yeah, if he would have went to Denver, he wouldn't have been a real OC. He wouldn't have called plays behind Nathaniel Hackett. He would have been in the shadow once more. Even though they're a division rival, which is weird, Green Bay's allowing their coach to go to a rival, he can call plays there unfettered, and he has development over Justin Fields. Getsy couldn't say that the same with Drew Lock or Brett Rippon. It's a more enticing, I think, for now, operation, but calling plays is the big key for why Getsy's is in Chicago.
Man, he missed the opportunity to keep the stepbrother metaphors rolling. That sucks. Angel. Don't recognize Angel on Super Chat, so welcome. Thank you. Appreciate you. You guys are still dope. Keep rocking. This is Bronx Legend Angel. Okay. Yes, we all know the Bronx Legend Angel. Okay. You changed your YouTube handle. Ooh. But, bro, it's great to have you in the chat. We have missed you. How are you, bud?
This is why I don't believe in the Rams, and this is why I thought they were going to lose in the playoffs. I mean, they're just a soft team at times, too much of a finesse team, as the Niners score a touchdown here. I have not been a believer in San Francisco, Chad, but you take down the Cowboys, you take down the Packers, and now you go to LA and maybe take down the Rams. They're for real, too. I don't know who's going to win that Super Bowl. I mean, both teams are playing so well right now if it comes down to San Francisco and Cincinnati. I know who I'm rooting for, but it could be a tight game.
A recapitulation of the last Super Bowl. In fact, wait a minute. Yeah, it was Bengals-Niners. Scott, you got 1 or 2, millimeters longer in the tooth than me. Wasn't the first Bengals Super Bowl, which was the first Bill Walsh World Championship, right? In 81, I think. Yeah. But weren't both Bengals Super Bowl matches against the Niners, right? All time? I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure. How ironic would that be, Zach? They get back and it's the Niners again. Different strokes jumping in. Only this time, no Joe Montana. Bodes well for Mr. Joe Burrow. Different strokes from across the pond. Thank you, big dog. Thanks for a great chat platform, guys, and a great season. You're kind. Thank you, buddy. A season that just got better with Mahomes self-destructing. Yes, he did. I'm telling you, I mean, I don't know if it's a character defect in me, taking joy in the implosion of another human being or a team, but I love that it was Joe Burrow and the upstart Bengals that sent Patrick Mahomes home tonight disappointed.
And Brittany Matthews and Jackson Mahomes, which I care about the most. I cannot stand either of them, so I revel in their misery. Mahomes did lose the game, and he has no excuse. It's not like the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers where he had no offensive line and he was hurt. I mean, he was taking ridiculous sacks, throwing ridiculous picks. He got lucky that some other throws weren't picked off. And I'll tell you what happened to Kansas City, though. In the second half, they took their foot off the gas pedal. They got complacent. They assumed because they had a big lead, they're at home, and they came back and beat the Bills last week, they were going to cruise to a victory. It doesn't matter if you're Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes or if you're Vic Fangio and Teddy Bridgewater. If you coach that way and play that way, you are going to lose. And the Bengals took advantage of it, and I'm happy.
By the way, as we get cottonmouth here, I want to get your opinion on Tom Brady. Chiefs lose, and Josh McDaniels is going to be the Raiders' next coach. What a good day. Amen, big dog. This bizarre saga of Tom Brady's faux retirement, making Adam Schefter and, was it Schefter Darlington?
Darlington, yeah.
Look like fools because he's saying, no, I have not decided to retire. What do you think's going on there?
I think someone in his camp leaked the news. I mean, if Schefter is reporting it and Darlington reported it, who are two of the more rock-solid guys, and ESPN backed up that reporting, they didn't have a retraction, they didn't take the story down. I think Brady was just mad that someone jumped the gun. He wants to do everything on his own terms, Chad. You know, he wanted his own production, the video to be put out, this and that, the fanfare, the accolades. He wanted to control. And, you know, you can make the argument that he should have had the opportunity. He's the greatest player of all time to announce his own retirement, but that's the world we live in. If a story gets out, it's going to break, and I think he's just being a little petty right now and delaying that.
I think you're 100% right. You know, the whole TB12 brand, like he wanted to be, you know, on camera, I'm announcing my retirement. It's the first everyone's ever heard it, and let that be kind of the breaking news. But Schefter jumped the gun.
They tweeted that out, the TB12 company. They retweeted, you know, thank you, Tom, and they listed his accomplishments. Then they deleted that tweet. So that's fair to say that he's retiring.
Mike Reno, appreciate you, buddy. Love the result, but not for the tip. But if not for the tip pass, turnover, the Chiefs win. Nothing to do with quarterback play. If KC would have played the same in the second half as they did the first, they would have won. Well, yeah, if ifs and buts were candy and nuts, right? We all would have a Merry Christmas. But ifs and buts are indeed not candy and nuts, and thus not everyone has a Merry Christmas. Jermaine Daughtry, scrap the Rodgers idea. Run with Drew Lock, see how it plays. I maintain people on Twitter don't necessarily like this tweet I sent out 2 days ago, but as you guys have heard me say on this podcast, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But Zach, as it stands today, Drew Lock is the most likely guy to be taking that first snap from under center on week 1 of the 2022 season. Now, I think George Paton is going to do what he can to move whatever mountains must be moved to get an upgrade. And if it's Aaron Rodgers, it's Aaron Rodgers. If it's Russ Wilson, it's Russ Wilson. Or if it's a quarterback they fall in love with in the draft, barring that, it's Drew. So start preparing yourselves for that as a possibility. And under the wing of a Nathaniel Hackett, Zach, who knows? Who knows which way that could go?
I'm thinking to the Peyton Hackett press conference from a few days ago. And of course, Peyton, the second question he was asked about Aaron Rodgers and whether hiring Hackett was a package deal. And Peyton, in response, he's so savage, Chad. He first listed his family that were in the audience. It was their first time in Dove Valley because of CV and this and that. And then he ends the question by saying, and absolutely not, thank you for asking. Done.
Right.
He can't talk about him anyway because of tampering, but what a
Yep.
boss move from George Payton. A couple other things stand out, though, from Hackett's time behind the podium. He was asked about young quarterbacks and his belief in developing them. I loved his answers and his insight. He goes, number one thing we have to do is protect the young quarterback. You have to surround him and protect him and run the ball well, establish the run, and play off that. It's just the antithesis of what the Broncos did under Drew Lock. Another quote, and my favorite quote from the Hackett presser, he goes, my favorite thing is when the players become the system. I mean, Chad, 6 to midnight right away. I can't remember the last time the Broncos had a coach that was talking like that, and it's exactly what they need. I don't know that Drew will be the week one starting quarterback, but I know he stands to benefit a lot more under Hackett's tutelage than he ever would have under Pat Shurmur.
I liked his answer, Zach, when he was asked what he values most in a quarterback, what traits, etc. Let me see. I can paraphrase it, but let me just see if I can quickly find it here on the press release. I'll just cut to the quick here. 2 traits, Zach: toughness and intelligence. Now, he also waxed quite poetic about Aaron Rodgers, and it's okay for him to talk about Aaron Rodgers because he's not a GM, and this is his quarterback he coached for the last 3 years. It's A-okay, but if to him, Zach, the top quarterback traits are toughness and intelligence, how does that bode for Drew Lock relative to whatever his strengths and weaknesses might be?
I think toughness is one of his biggest assets, one of his biggest strengths. I mean, he played through that shoulder injury, then he caught that trick play and he almost scored near the goal line. I mean, he's a tough customer for sure. Intelligence, that's always going to be a red flag about Drew. Because of the turnovers and his inconsistent play, you wonder how smart he can be. But on the same token, I think a better coach, an elite coach, can make a player smarter on the field by teaching them, by developing. That's the whole point of having a coach. So once again, I don't know that Hackett was hired specifically for Drew Lock, but if they roll with him, even as a backup, I think he's going to make a huge leap under a coach that knows what they're doing and is willing to roll with Lock's strengths.
I don't know, Scott, if we need to grab that Wyatt comment. I didn't see it till right there at the last second. But, one of the knocks on Drew is, there's been a lot of rumors and criticism from the time when he was a draft prospect to up to this point about a lack of football IQ from Drew Lock. And as you mentioned, there have been aspects to his game that would bolster that. All right. But at the same time, we've yet to hear of a fellow player or former teammate, former coach say anything that would confirm that. Now, that's not confirmation or one way or the other, that we haven't heard it from anyone that's actually coached or played with Drew, but still it's in the wind. It's out there, and it's up to Drew Lock. And I think to disprove that as a notion, and I think there's strong sign that really it's all been misinterpreted by outside, perspective, but because he's a young quarterback going through the ups and downs. Evidence being, Zach, those last 3 games, he wasn't able to will the Broncos to victories in the 3 games he started in 2021, but he showed that he was much more, his presence of mind, protecting the ball while still pushing it, and all that stuff shows that there's something there, right? Some kind of a intellectual grasping of what it takes perhaps to succeed in the NFL. Then we'll grab Wyatt. Thanks, Wyatt. Thanks for your patience, buddy.
I would submit that if Hackett can make Blake Bortles into a competent quarterback, he can make Drew Lock into a competent quarterback. There's more raw talent, I believe, arm talent anyway, with Lock than there was with Bortles. So that's one of the storylines we're going to have to monitor for as long as Lock remains on the Broncos.
All right. Wyatt, you are a rock star prince. We're going to get you your question next, I promise you. He says Hackett is about to turn Locke into the top quarterback in the AFC West.
I don't know
AFC
about
West
that.
going to be a shootout for the next 10 years. Hey, dude, I'm all about that optimist mindset, but we also got to keep our 2 feet within the bounds of reality. Is it possible? Maybe. I don't know. But don't count on Drew Lock becoming suddenly Patrick Mahomes by virtue of Nathaniel Hackett showing up in Denver.
I didn't say it. Direct the angst elsewhere. I mean, he can be a serviceable quarterback, and I think a starting quarterback in this league, but let's pump the brakes quite a bit.
Tabitha jumping in with some stars. Appreciate that, my friend. Really do. All right, let's see what else is on people's mind here in the chat. As if I look distracted here and there, guys, I'm just glancing up to see the scores and developments in the game here as the Rams try and keep this a game.
They better score here.
Michael Ronquillo says the Rams are not helping Vaughn get back to the Super Bowl right now. Hey, man, I'm not going to be surprised if they come back and win this thing. If they score here, which they're going to score something, narrow it down to 1. If this is a touchdown drive, not a field goal drive, then suddenly all things become possible again. Rick wants to know, is Hackett good news for Drew Lock? It's a good question because today I found it interesting. Eric Trickle published 2 different articles since Hackett was hired. First one being 5 players who benefit most from Hackett arriving in Denver. And then today it was 4 players who don't, right? The opposite. And he listed Drew Lock on the second list of players who it's bad news for him that Nathaniel Hackett's coming. I'll let you guys go read his logic behind that. But if there's any poor implications, Zach, on Hackett coming to Denver for Lock, it's that I think reading between the lines, his name was not mentioned in the press conference Friday, Drew's. And so reading between those lines and amongst other things that was said, it seems like Paton and Hackett, their focus is on an outside quarterback, whether that's a veteran or in the draft. And that's obviously just not great news for Drew.
Yeah, because even if they don't get Aaron, there's always Russ Wilson. There's always bridge quarterbacks like Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins, or they can draft a quarterback and feel comfortable now that Hackett's in the building. I don't know that I would make Drew Lock the favorite. I think he's the underdog right now in the quarterback competition. So I agree with Eric's premise that there's a reason they brought in an offensive coach. There's a reason all this smoke is burning around Aaron Rodgers. And you're right. Even though he talked about, Hackett did, about developing a young quarterback, Lock was never mentioned by name. So read into that what you will.
Yep. I do read into it a little bit. I really do. I think that if Nathaniel Hackett was truly excited about Drew, you would have heard it in that press conference. Miguel, any word on Broncos ownership news? Nothing specific unless I missed something this evening or this afternoon. But the expectation, Zach, is that Joe Ellis is going to be talking about some kind of a development on that front within the next week or so.
I think it'll happen by springtime when the NFL's owners meetings take place, and they'll have some prospective buyers, ownership groups, and Robert Smith. He's interested. He wants to throw his hat in the ring. So we'll have a resolution, I think, in a couple months' time.
By the way, R.I.P. to Les Shapiro, the great Denver broadcaster who passed away, succumbed to cancer. A legend in the industry and a legend in the market. So thoughts and prayers to the Shapiro family. On Twitch, we got Ral Blitz. Good day from Melbourne. Or is it Melbourne? How do you say it down there? Is it Melbourne? Americans say Melbourne, but I think they say Melbourne. Either way. Just wondering what you think about having a first-time head coach with what sounds like a first-time OC in DC. I'd personally love to see Gary Kubiak back with the team in some sort of leadership position. Hashtag Go Broncos, state of being. Love that, dude. You do. You're one of the great members of our community that exemplifies that state of being hashtag, my friend. Thanks for checking in from down under. Kubiak coming back to Denver. Nah, if anything, Zach, he burned his bridges, right? Like, first of all, he leaves Elway hanging by quitting after the 2016 season. And then Elway does him a solid, brings him back to the organization, lets him start with a little small kind of um, personally curated job that was etched out for Kubiak only. Then that morphs into becoming a senior advisor to the GM. I mean, Elway was looking out for him, dude. Elway was taking care of Koob, and then Koob bounces. I got the itch to coach again. Later's, and it's like, dude, you screwed me. I'm your boy. I'm your best friend from freaking rookie minicamp. We come to the league together. We room together. We blood, sweat, and tears for 9 years together as players, and then as player coach. We win a Super Bowl as a GM coach tandem, and then you freaking do me dirty. If John Elway has anything to do with this organization, I can't imagine Gary Kubiak is going to come back in any kind of capacity, and that's okay.
Yeah, that was my point. He doesn't have anything to do with the organization. He's no longer GM. He's kind of fading out of the picture. It's George Payton's team now, and out with the old, in with the new. They hired Nathaniel Hackett. I also brought up this point a couple pods ago. They might have a first-time head coach, first-time OC, first-time DC. I would maybe look for Hackett to hire or retain a veteran assistant, maybe Mike Munchak, who had previous head coaching experience, or bringing someone aboard, maybe Wade Phillips or Mike Zimmer as an advisor, consultant role, just something to level off the inexperience of the coaching staff. But no to Gary Kubiak. That ship has sailed. That time has passed. It's a new era in Broncos country. Can't look back.
Deebo Samuel, dude, what a freaking animal that guy is. Seriously. Yeah, Gary Kubiak, been there, done that. God bless him. I love Koob. I do. Koob is a massive figure in Bronco lore, but yeah, onwards and upwards. Andrew Baker, just love for my Huddle Bros and the community, loving these championship games. Yeah, dude, appreciate you, big dog. They have been very good games up to this point. The whole big time stars, by the way. Thank you, Andrew.
The whole postseason has been like that. It's been nail biters almost each and every week. Hasn't topped last week's game. The Kansas City Buffalo Bills game was one of, if not the greatest game I have ever seen in my entire life. 25 points in the last 2 minutes. But they had an overtime game in Kansas City. This is going down to the wire as well. What a season this has been overall.
The NFL, man, it's king for a reason. Parity reigns supreme. The level of competition, the way that the owners collectively enforce the salary cap to where small market and big market teams are on equal footing and all that. Like, there's a reason the NFL is king, and we've seen that personified in these playoffs. Phil McLaughlin, thank you, buddy. Evening, Chad and Zach. I'm waiting for Jimmy Garoppolo to give it away and Vaughn or Arnold to get a sack. Go Broncos. Yeah, this is about when Vaughn's should be due for a game-affecting play here, Zach. This is time to shine.
He's done nothing today. As good as he's been this postseason, I haven't heard one play from Von Miller. Been watching the game the entire time, or Aaron Donald for that matter. I just saw I was actually going to say that when I was watching the play. Their pass rush isn't getting home. So the Niners, credit, they're doing a good job protecting Jimmy G, and he's getting the ball that quick, either running plays or short passes over the middle. This is how you beat a finesse team like the Rams. I give Kyle Shanahan a ton of credit for that.
Man, you're just always going to wonder what could have been if Joe Ellis doesn't kind of sour the possibility of Kyle coming in, and if John Elway wasn't already just so enamored with the idea of hiring Vance Joseph. That job was Vance's fait accompli from the drop. Okay, let's see what else we got on the minds of everybody. We're at about 43 minutes. We'll keep tonight a relatively tight, short, because people are watching the game and all that stuff. So let me just see what else might be burning on people's minds here. Here's Leroy wants to know, Zach, Jimmy G playing pretty good tonight. If the Niners win the Super Bowl, would you want him in the Broncos uniform?
I have a counter question, Chad, and you can answer as well. Is Jimmy G, and I mean this seriously, is he that much better? No doubt, slam dunk upgrade over Drew Lock.
I think he would definitely be a if we look at it from competency perspective, that would be an upgrade. If we looked at it from upside potential, I mean, I think Drew is just a much more talented, dynamic.
Fumble. Ooh. Is that a fumble? Maybe the ball was down. I don't know about competent, though, because he's constantly overthrowing, Jimmy G is, and getting passes picked off. And that's always been the book on Drew is his inconsistency. So he might be a slight upgrade, but not a guy I'm hitching my wagon to. I don't think a guy that's going to lead you to a Super Bowl victory.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
that was a fumble, dude. What's the? It looks like I'm behind you by about 20 seconds in the broadcast.
They say 4th and 2. Yeah, they're punting. I guess it was down.
All right, here's Matthew
Oh, they're
Stafford.
challenging. Nice.
Dang, dude.
Keep
Who is
going.
that 71? That's not Trent, is it?
Williams,
Trent-
yeah, I think.
Dude, I always have loved Trent Williams. I just wasn't sure because that was the number he rocked in Washington, if I'm not mistaken.
Playing on a sprained ankle tonight, too.
All right. Okay, let's see what else, guys. Any last second topics, questions we can get to? Travis Weber, we all know that, but one, we don't if we are getting Rodgers or Wilson. Two, if Denver will draft a quarterback this draft. Three, Locke is still under contract for one more year unless traded, so we might have to roll with Locke. Yeah, I mean, again, he's the only quarterback the Broncos have currently that's under contract for 2022. So, he's the favorite probably, but only by default. The Broncos, again, they're going to be active in this offseason cycle, Zach, trying to find a quarterback upgrade, like a true force to be reckoned with. Because, I mean, the divisional round game you referenced, Zach, the Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, amongst many other games, including the AFC title game today and the NFC title game. I mean, maybe lesser so for the NFC, but still, you have young, dynamic franchise quarterbacks, and that's what you got to have, Zach. If you want to be a force to be reckoned with in the league, period, end of story, you got to have that. Could Drew maybe become that? Maybe, but Broncos have now 6 straight seasons. Is it 6? Judas Priest missing the playoffs. They don't really have any more time. That's another reason, Zach, why it was such a betrayal, in my opinion, for Fangio to go with Drew or to go with Teddy over Drew last year. Is that, if anything, that was kind of the last benefit of the doubt window of time, so to speak, that you could maybe as a fan base give to the team to develop a guy. Or finish close the gap in his development or whatever, and they just went different direction. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate you, bro. Really, I do.
You mentioned having good quarterbacking, a young up-and-coming quarterback, but it's also coaching. Look at these two coaches, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Brian Callahan in Cincinnati, and also Zach Taylor, and the Broncos finally have that. I don't see a defensive coach anywhere among these teams. I see offensive coaches. So this is what would happen, though, for Locke to get the starting opportunity. This is what has to happen. They don't get Aaron. They don't get Russ Wilson. They don't trade for someone like Garoppolo or Matt Ryan or Kirk Cousins. And they don't draft a quarterback in the first or second round or a high round draft pick. That's a lot of dominoes that not have to fall for Locke to wind up under center. So he has an opportunity, and I think at the very least he'd be a great backup to have, but I'm not circling his name in ink yet as the starting quarterback for 22.
All right, guys. Hey, thank you for spending some time with us tonight. We're going to dip on out of here a little bit earlier than we might usually.
D-Dub.
And we'll be back for, we got Dale in the house from across the Pacific Ocean in Paradise with a very generous super. Great to see you, buddy. 270 people watching, 63 likes. Come on, people. Smash. Let's go. This is what Dale's trying to tell you. It's a small thing you guys can do. You hear us say it, and oftentimes, I'm there too. I watch a lot of content on YouTube. Sometimes it's in one ear, out the other. You don't always remember to like the video. But that's a small thing every viewer can do to help us in a big, bad way. It's a massive force multiplier. So thank you for that, Super Chat, Dale, and for the call to action.
Speaking of smashing, I want to smash this comment real quick from Ovanus. There was a reason why Vic didn't like Drew. Maybe, just maybe, he knew that Locke isn't the guy. There was a reason why he didn't like Drew, and the reason is that Vic is an idiot. Straight up. Vic is a moronic head coach. He knew nothing about the offense. He was way out of his depths, and he was totally doing the Broncos a disservice by not rolling with Drew and so biasly rolling with Teddy Bridgewater. So I'm not going to take anything that Vic Fangio has to say about an offensive player, Drew Lock, or anybody else to heart. To me, he knows nothing.
D-Dub with a second very generous super saying, great job, excited. Heck yeah, bro. We're excited too. And yes, the whole Vegas thing for the draft, it's on, baby. We don't have the details for you quite yet. I'm going to let it get a little bit closer before I start booking things and laying out the credit card. I want to make sure for sure it's going to actually happen relative to the pandemic and whatnot, right? But when we do, hope to see you there, Dale, along with your great wife, Gretchen, and as many of you as possible. We'll do a fun meet and greet come draft time, but we're out of here for tonight.
Yeah, it's going to do it, guys, for this episode of the Huddle Up Pod. Until tomorrow, same time, same place. Follow us on Twitter at Huddle Up Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter for all your Broncos news, rumors, analysis, and up-to-the-second information at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Chad on Twitter at Chad and Jensen. You can follow myself at Kelberman NFL. Follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. If you haven't, go to huddleuppod.com and get yourself a comfortable beanie, get yourself a hoodie like Chad's wearing, a hat, all right there at huddleuppod.com, and also facebook.com/milehighhuddle. Hit that big blue button, become a supporter, and facebook.com/milehighhuddlepod. Like that page, follow that page. If you haven't, go to Apple Podcasts and leave your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win. Could be a beanie, could be a hoodie each and every single month. But if you can't do those things, please do these 3 things. Takes a few seconds. Subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. Helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Just like you, baby. Real quick, here's how we finished on Facebook. And by the way, quick message to Joe Spath, who was the winner on Facebook in the month of December. We have a little bit of a hitch in the fulfillment of getting you your jersey. We sent you off an email. We need a reply on that, big dog. So if you listen to this, I don't know if you're in the chat tonight, but if you hear this, reach out, check your email. Shout out to Phil McLaughlin tonight, Andrew Baker, Miguel, Andrew Lampy, Tabitha, Jermaine, Mike, Reno, that is, Michael Ronquillo, Rodney Garcia, George, Travis Weber, Wyatt Horning, and Lawrence Rivera. And then also our Super Chat superstars, starting with Cloud9 TK, Sam Bam, who said, later Chiefs, go Broncos. Love you, buddy. Smith Corona, Based Gaze, Angelo Perez, John Clay Eventing, Friendly Giant, Angel, the Bronx legend, Different Strokes, Cottonmouth 78, and of course, the legendary figure in MHH lore, DW. Dale, love you guys. Appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Yeah, I think Money Moore, I'm a little mean-spirited for calling out Vic Fangio, but, facts don't care about feelings. So we'll see you tomorrow night, guys. Same time, same place, 6 o'clock Mountain, 8 o'clock Eastern. Take care, and as always, go Broncos.